Hi, Shirley here, and I'm with a video that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, but I did not have the energy and the time to do that. The winter shelter that I'm in is closing in 2 days, and I hope I have a solution for it to stay afterwards. So I think it's a good time being a month in Netherlands to do cultural shocks that I had when coming to Netherlands video. Just for a moment to forget about the circumstances that I came here and just do a little whole travel vlog. So without further ado, the first cultural shock that I had when I came here was that many people do ride black. And what is riding black? It is actually entering the metro or the train without a ticket. You just wait until somebody enters and then you enter after them. And then you try to keep away from the people who check the tickets. So I did not know how common it is in the Netherlands. And the thing is that you have to understand, first of all, of course, homeless ride they ride black. I don't know still if they cancel all the tickets or not. I have a couple of tickets that I had to get. So we'll update you if they get canceled when you're homeless. But even people who do work sometimes are forced to ride black because the public transportation is very expensive. And this is a country where you pay tax like Sweden. You know, working people can get up to 52% tax. So it's a tax-paying country. It's a tax regime. So the only justification would be welfare state, which is why Netherlands is sometimes considered to be a welfare state, and there are pros and cons to that, and I can do a video about the myth and the truth about the welfare state that Netherlands is, especially until when I know where am I sleeping after the shelter closes. That would maybe change the bias of the video. But it was a shock. Like in Israel, I'm sure that people ride black in Israel, but it is not such. I never heard of that, and I guess there are many security people that it's difficult to do that. But that's something I was not used to. I was not used to riding black, so that was the first one. Second cultural shock that I had as an Israeli coming to the Netherlands is don't expect to not hear Hebrew. If you're in Amsterdam, depending on the region, but if you're in around, of course, Zout or the Pipe, I hope I'm pronouncing this. I'm like thinking about pipe in English, and I was like, what? But there's a neighborhood called the Pipe, and in Amstelveen, which is like entirely Israeli as far as I understood, expect to meet Hebrew. There are shops and businesses where it's not just that the place is Israel. You're hearing Hebrew, and I even spent an entire day here speaking Hebrew. So that was the second cultural shock. That if the pro about it is that you don't have to miss home. You just find yourself in a little Israel in the Netherlands. For people who don't expect that, that might be like a less of an abroad experience, although you can definitely get an abroad experience with the Netherlands. So that was my second cultural shock. My third cultural shock, and I'm gonna do the third and the fourth together. Everybody says that Netherlands is like having the strongest Wi-Fi. So I came here expecting Wi-Fi to be everywhere, not even bothering to update my cell phone company that I'm leaving. And then I got to the airport and there's hardly Wi-Fi. And then I got to the central station and there's hardly Wi-Fi. And even when I sneaked into the train, sometimes there is Wi-Fi, sometimes it gets stuck. And in a hostel that I was, there was a shelter, but it was also a hostel, so it's a touristic place. Quavering Wi-Fi, and I'm like, was that a myth? So, and when I managed, people helped me to buy a SIM card and top my SIM card with money so I can get Wi-Fi. Doesn't always work. And I'm like, that's not what I expected. So, it's true, I am here in the winter time, although the winter is way less difficult than I guess usually. So, when people tell you the Netherlands have great Wi-Fi, and I'm in Amsterdam, like this is central, anywhere in Amsterdam, yeah, it's not what they say. I'm not saying that it's worse than other countries, but do not expect that smooth, strong, bulletproof Wi-Fi to be there all the time, whenever. Come prepared that even when you do buy Wi-Fi, it might not be, the top qualities, and do your research. I have not yet done mine, and I don't even have the funding to do mine just yet. But do your research, because it's not that great Wi-Fi. So that was the third. And the fourth cultural shock is money. For me, when I came here, I escaped here. So I changed the little money that I had in shekels to euros. And it was not very usable because it used me to take an emergency taxi to a shelter. And then buy me some stuff, and that's it. A little bit of phone, same, and that's it. But what I realized is that not only do most places in Amsterdam, including the markets, expect you to pay in credit, if you come to the Netherlands with an international credit card, which was not my case because I escaped Israel, so I didn't even get to have an international credit card before I escaped. But what I've learned is from people who do come with international credit cards is that it's not accepted in most places. And so if you don't have a Netherlands account, it's basically difficult to bring money into the country, which is a huge cultural shock for me because it's such a touristic country. So why wouldn't, what? There are places that do receive cash. I've managed to buy essential oils with cash. I've managed to buy some grocery stores in the Albergeen with cash. But also you don't expect to have an ATM everywhere. The ING, which is one of the biggest banks in Amsterdam, in Netherlands, is closing their ATMs and moving to digital payment, what they call pinnen. If you know Hebrew, don't mind. Pin is actually penis in Hebrew. So yeah, pinnen. But that means payment, nothing else. But don't expect to find ATMs. You can change the airport, you can change some. I know at the Belmar Arena there is a Travelex agency, but I don't know how do they work. I never tried there. I changed my shekels into Travelex, which was a huge fee. Yep. And do not expect to be able to do a lot of purchases in the Netherlands if you don't actually have an account here. Big issue for nomads, for expats, for anybody who wants to keep their anybody who actually wants to bring money into the country, which I think is really dumb. I mean, I know they're doing the PIN stuff, so that's their way to deal with robberies because they don't have enough police force. But maybe I shouldn't say it out loud. That's their excuse. They don't have enough police force. That's what they say. And they have a lot of robberies, so they decided to absolve cash. But I don't get the part where you can't purchase with, external credit. Maybe they're afraid of money laundering, but then, I don't know. Either way, what comes out in that is that people who are homeless, who don't have an address, might find it difficult to open a bank account and don't have access to banking. So if you cannot even make a purchase, even if you have euros, how are you expected to get along? Fortunately for me, people do help me. But I did have some people who made certain purchases for me in PN, also to top the train ticket, which is not something that you can do everywhere with cash. And if you do it with cash, it's more expensive than if you do it with credit. But the credit has to be Dutch. So that was my fourth rant about the Nederland. Let's see if I have a fifth. I definitely have a fifth. Let's see what wants to come. The many nationalities. Well, it's known that the Netherlands is a cosmopolitan country. What was surprising to me was, okay, there's a thing in the Netherlands, and this is for people who lost their homes, which I guess are many people watching this, because we are in COVID times. And I found, when I came here, I channeled my coming here. I didn't know that I'm coming here on the day of my flight. I think I spoke about it. But I believed, I said, okay, I have a Dutch passport. It's on its way. I'm a Dutch citizen. And, when I'm healthy and working out, pay my taxes, then, of course, I come, if I paid 50% tax, then I need to see what happens if I need help so that I can get back on to work. So whenever I would speak with an official person, I would emphasize how competent I am, how educated I am. I would say, yes, I ran away from an abusive relationship, but these are my degrees, these are my diplomas, this is what I can do, I can work, I can this, I can that, help me because I can go back to pay my taxes and, benefit the country. And I'm a citizen. And I emphasize, I'm Dutch. But what I realized is that I was actually taking the wrong course of action, because there are people who don't have Dutch passport and get a BSN and get their rights. And I'm like, that is so weird. But the thing is that they trade. They do this also in Israel. I was not aware of this until I came here and I saw it happening here, and then I reflected back to what happened to me in my other country. The only way that you can get help, like a shelter and a place to stay and a place to sleep, even if you don't have Dutch passport, not that I'm against, I'm for legalizing immigration, because I think legalizing immigration would resolve human trafficking. It's not about legalizing drugs, not that I'm necessarily against that, or legalizing sex work, not that I am in any way, shape, or form in authority to have an opinion on that, because I'm not a sex worker. But actually legalizing immigration could help. And could help create a lot better future for all of us, because if we help people, they want to work and they want to make money and they want to stand on their own 2 feet. And if we help people do that, then it doesn't matter what their nationality is, because there is good economy for all of us. That being said, I've learned that if you are, let's say, a drug user, or agree to take psychiatric drugs, you have better chances, not saying that you're going to get help, but you have better chances at getting help because you're basically being used for medical experiments, in the good case, because, hey, there's a genetic test that can say how something will affect you. So why would they do that? I don't know. But you're basically I guess, being funded by either drug dealers and pharmaceutical companies. And that is how you get your place to stay. And if you say no to these things, then you're considered an economical DACLOS, which is like economical homeless, and then you don't have a solution. So, to me, it was a shock. It was not such a cultural shock, because I would think that the way things work is like you have to show how competent you are and how you're going to get back and going to be a tax-paying person. If you pay 50% tax, of course, they'd rather have you paying taxes than homeless in the street and having to steal or I don't know what for a living. But apparently it's not, not the way I thought it was. So that was my 5th cultural shock. And these are my, so far my cultural shocks of the Netherlands. There are more cute things about the language. For example, tost is tosti. And for those of you who don't like forcing medical experiments on people, you would like this one because vaccination in Dutch is vaxi-nazi. And I'm allowed to say that because that's the word. It's vaxi-nazi. 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 So there are good things in the Netherlands too. People do go to demonstrations a lot, which is a wonderful thing. So there is hope. And yeah. Any more cute things about Netherlands in upcoming video? That was my cultural shocks video.